This conference will now be recorded.
So we will talk about taxation today. Taxation or taxes. Now I'll be giving different assignments, different tasks to be performed, to be analyzed from your side on the taxation. And in fact, for every topic that we are going to discuss from now on, I will be listing out different points, different one-liner questions to be figured out. All these points, all these one-liners, whatever I write, whatever I want you to figure out, all these points are very important from your interview point of view. So I want each of you to put your effort to find out what is what, and then we will be discussing all the points that we are listing out here practically from the interview point of view and from the project point of view. Okay. So when we talk about taxation, first thing that you need to understand is what is taxation. Right? First thing that you need to understand what is taxation. After that, you need to understand a type of taxation. So let me put here what is taxation. I'm not explaining all these points right now. We will be discussing collectively on all these points in the upcoming sessions. Once you all find out the points, then we will collectively put all the points together, and then we will decide if you're getting these kind of questions, or if you have been asked these questions in your interview, what you are going to answer, how you are going to answer. If the other person is not convinced, and what you are going to tell to make the other person feel that they are convinced, or they feel that you know the better. Now all these points you have to prepare in a different way considering your interview point of view. So first thing that you need to know is what is taxation. Next one, you have how many types of taxes we have. So here I'm not writing anything. What is taxation is normally the theoretical content. Now if you talk about how many type of taxes that you have, for this, how many types of taxes do we have? One or two or three?
Two types, direct and indirect.
So you have one as direct taxes, the other one as indirect taxes. So we must know what is direct tax, we must know what is indirect taxes. If you get this question, this is common question in any of your interviews if you're talking about a taxation. They might ask you what kind of a taxation did you work, or what kind of a taxation you have experience on. They might use the right terminology, or they might simply use what is direct tax, what is indirect tax, how you will configure direct taxation in SAP, how you will configure indirect taxation in SAP. Now here you need to understand there are two type of taxes, direct and indirect, and normally we call about sales tax, purchase tax, correct? We
Yes, sir.
frequently use a term called sales tax, purchase tax. Now this is sales tax, purchase tax is part of direct tax or indirect tax.
Indirect tax.
Sales tax, purchase tax is part of your indirect taxes. Apart from sales and purchase tax, you have another tax called withholding tax or tax deducted at a source or TDS. This withholding tax or TDS, is it part of direct or indirect tax?
Direct tax.
This is a direct tax. So under direct taxes, we will put TDS or withholding tax. Under indirect taxes, we will put sales and purchase tax. Correct? Is this right? Direct tax means withholding tax or TDS or tax deducted at a source. Indirect taxes means sales and purchases tax. Are these two terminologies correct? Or there are any
Yes, sir.
corrections in it?
Sir, we
Correct,
can
sir.
put TCS in direct taxes also, no?
Yes, you can also put for customer tax collected at source. Okay, basically these are your direct taxes and the indirect taxes. You must know the clear distinguish or the difference between direct and indirect taxes first, and make sure if somebody is asking you, you worked on direct taxes or indirect taxes, be very clear, be very confident that you are able to differentiate between direct and indirect, and you can clearly explain the configuration. Majorly what will happen if somebody is asking you to explain in your interview, especially can you tell me the configuration of indirect taxes? Sometimes people start talking about TDS. If somebody is asking you to tell me the configuration or the process of direct taxes in SAP, people start talking about sales and purchase tax because they get confused. Now remember, when you're talking about taxation in SAP, according to SAP, it is called as taxation. According to SAP, this is called as a taxation. Treatment for taxation in SAP is common. Treatment for taxation in SAP is common, which means the configuration that you do for taxation in SAP is standard for all the countries. When you talk about taxation, taxation is a localization object. Correct? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
Taxation is a localization object. Now, taxation is country specific. When we say taxation is localization object, we mean taxation is country specific. In every country, there is a different treatment of taxes. In every country, there is a different treatment of taxes, especially when you're preparing for your interview. Make sure when you're talking about a taxation, keep at least one or two countries in your mind for which you worked. Now, this is very important. Here, most of the people will commit mistakes. Let's say, assuming that I am going into SAP interview as a FICO consultant, considering 4 years of experience or 3 years of experience, I will say that if somebody is asking me, have you worked on taxation? I will say yes. For which localization you worked on taxation? So they might put for which country, they might put for which localization you have done the taxation, for which project you did taxation. Now, I may have the right answer, I may not have right answer. For these kind of questions, majoritarily people will go blank because they only prepare about taxation, tax configuration. So beyond that, nobody will go majorly, but that is where you will be tested whether you really worked on taxation, whether you really have experience, knowledge on taxation or not. I know that you know the configuration of taxation. I know that you may be aware of accounting entries in taxation, but these 2 points I want to skip in my interview. When I know that everybody prepares on these 2 areas, configuration and accounting entry for taxation, I wanted to avoid these 2 points and then go beyond these 2. And when you are preparing for your interview, you should also go in the same approach. You must know these 2 points because these are least tested in your interview. Nobody will pay attention. Nobody will pay focus on these areas: config of taxation, accounting entry of taxation, because it's a fact that everybody prepares, everybody by hearts this. Correct? Now I want to go something beyond that in my interview. If you are sitting in front of me, I want to ask something different. I want to ask to which client you worked on taxation. Then when I say for which client or to which client you worked on taxation, I mean that you tell me the name of the project, name of the company, name of the organization in which you worked on taxation. If it is an implementation or if it is a support rollout, let it be anything, but I want you to take the name of your project. Let's say you worked for some XYZ company limited. Now this XYZ company limited is part of which country? Now these things should come out from your mind on the spot spontaneously. Unless you prepare thoroughly, you cannot speak out on these areas. Suddenly you will go blank, you will start thinking, and then whatever you talk may represent, may be relevant to your resume, may not be relevant to your resume, because these questions are unexpected in your interview. And you have not prepared at this level. You need to make sure at this level you're starting to prepare, you're starting to think about. Let's say I'm talking about I worked for ABC India Private Limited. If I'm talking about ABC India Private Limited and I'm telling that I worked on taxation or I have experience on taxation, let it be support experience, let it be implementation, rollout experience. If I'm talking about India taxation, and I must consider certain facts here. Now, when I'm talking about I have an experience in ABC India Private Limited, now I need to look at what is my experience. Let's say I have 4 years of experience in SAP FICO. I have 4 years of experience in SAP FICO and I'm telling that I worked on taxation for ABC India Private Limited. Are these 2 points clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? Assuming this is my situation, this is my scenario. Majoritarily, we all fall under this scenario only. And if I'm talking about I have 4 years of experience in SAP and I worked for ABC India Private Limited for taxation. Because obviously we will not tell that I don't have any experience, right? So we must be saying that yes, I have experience on taxation also. Then immediately you may get another question, in which client or for which company you worked on taxation. Let's say you are telling you worked on taxation for ABC India Private Limited. You are giving interview now, you are telling that you have 4 years of experience, then you must have worked on taxation 4 years before, which means maybe from 2020 onwards you would have worked on taxation, correct?
Yes,
From
sir.
2020 you would have worked on taxation. From 2020, at that time, what kind of a taxation was there in India? Is it
GST?
normal tax or is it GST?
GST.
GST, sir.
So it was GST. GST was in place during our experience. Now, you may get another question stating, do you have any experience on GST? Sometimes on the floor, people will tell no. When somebody says you have experience on taxation, they say yes. For which client, they say some XYZ India Private Limited. And they ask another question, do you have any experience on GST? They say no. Now, is this relevant or irrelevant if I say no?
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant, right? Now, these kind of tricky questions is what people try to put you, and they want to put you in trouble asking these kind of simple, irrelevant, illogical questions just to test your level of knowledge, just to test how confident, how comfortable you are, and at what level you have prepared for your interview. Because I know you would have prepared on taxation config, I know you would have prepared for taxation accounting entries. As I said, I want to skip those. If I'm taking your interview on SAP FICO, this is what I will do. The moment I look at your profile, the moment I come to know this is below 5 years of experience, the kind of questions that I ask, the kind of impression that I get in my mind is different. Always remember, if you are attending any SAP FICO interview below 5 years and above 5 years, this is how it is always measured in the real environment. If you are attending an interview showing below 5 years, anything starting from 0 until 4 year 11 experience, 4 year 11 months. On the resume, if I see anything less than 5, treatment is different. Anything which is above 5, treatment is different. Category 1, category 2 likewise. Getting my point? If your experience is above 5, it's a different treatment. If your experience is below 5, it's a different treatment. Majoritarily 90%, everybody will fall under category A below 5 years, correct? Majoritarily people fall under category below 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you are under below
Yes, sir.
5 years, the way you prepare for the interview should be different, because it's not about whether you really fall under that category that we are talking about. Maybe you have not worked completely, but you are projecting some experience. You are trying to prove that you have an experience before, or you may be genuinely having experience of 3 4 years. But in the market, everywhere majority always wins. Majority of the profiles with below 5 years are projected experience profiles. This is open fact which everybody will have to accept. We're not talking every profile, we're talking about majority of the profiles. If we know that majority of the profiles are such kind, so the interviewer assumes that your profile is also under the similar category. Clear? And you need to take care of all these points before you prepare for your interview, before you sit in your interview. Because the other person may be under that impression that you may have genuine experience, you may have projected experience. Accordingly, you need to prepare, accordingly, you need to talk. And your intention is to make sure that the other person perception on you will disappear the moment you start talking. The way you answer, the way you talk, the way you respond to the questions should let the other person feel that this guy is genuine. He knows the subject well, he has good knowledge. You need to target that the other person will get this kind of impression by way of your answering, by way of your explanation. Don't put into your mind that whether he got any doubt and all. Ignore all these points. As long as you have these points in your mind, you will not be able to talk confidently. And openly, I told that below 5 years, everybody will have a different perception on the candidate. Unless and until they talk, unless and until they are convinced with your explanation, nobody will take your profile forward. Because in their mind, it is not listed. That is why they don't even consider to look at your experience, project and all. Nobody will check. So you don't have to think from that point of view at all. It is all the common generic interaction one-to-one if your profile is below 5 years. Nobody is going to go in that detailed. Even if somebody goes into detailed, they will not go in depth. They will only check whether you know what profiles, what projects you are talking about, what you have done in this project. That is minimum thing that everybody should prepare. You also would have prepared on this similar way, and you will have to prepare on those points which cannot be ignored. And once you know that these points, and once you say that you have experience of 4 years, you worked on some XYZ India Private Limited, and at that time, if your experience is 4 years, let's say if you're giving interview now, at that time GST is in place, you must talk about GST, you must know some basics about GST. Now these points, why you need to keep in your mind. Let's say you may be giving interview for a XYZ company, you do not know for which project they are looking for a FICO resource, correct? We do not know for which project they are looking for a FICO resource. They may be looking for a FICO resource for Indian projects, for Indian clients, or maybe for any abroad clients, abroad projects. If somebody is looking for a candidate to work on Indian projects, they definitely need you to have experience on GST. If not experience, at least you must be aware of what is GST, how it works, how tax calculates, what accounting interest it will post, what kind of a basic configuration you will do in the system. At least these basic points, if you are aware of, if you are able to talk confidently, then I'll be okay with you. I'm not expecting you to have hands-on experience on GST, but I am expecting you to have at least basic knowledge, basic awareness on GST and how this is treated in SAP. At this base level, knowing is very simple. And this is what is expected from you when you attend any interview if you're talking about taxation. And you must know at what level, what kind of a questions they expect from you. Accordingly, you need to have your first level preparation. Clearer? You must know about GST if you are talking about Indian projects. Let's say on your profile, you are not keeping any Indian project. If you're not keeping any Indian project, you can upfront tell that you have not worked on GST, but you have knowledge, you have idea about GST, how it works. Clear?
Hello. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Sir, most of the resume is mentioning the foreign projects, na, sir. How do I explain the GST, sir? That is also one headache.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. If you have not mentioned Indian clients on your resume, if you have mentioned all the foreign clients on your resume, you should not say that you have experience on GST. Alright, that's what I've listed here. You must know for which client you worked on taxation and your client belongs to which country. If it is belongs to India, you must talk about you have experience on GST. If your client does not belong to India, you should not say that you have experience on GST, but you tell that you know about GST, you can handle GST. And they might say, if you do not have experience on GST, how can you handle? They'll tell you have no experience on GST, you have no experience on Indian client. How can you handle? There you have to talk about, that is where you need to talk. You need to impress your interviewer that according to SAP, taxation is a standard config. Correct?
Yes, sir.
According to SAP, taxation is a common topic, common configuration. SAP does not provide you GST as a separate config because GST is something which is applicable only in India. Anywhere else you find GST tax calculations apart from India?
No, sir, I don't know. Only India, I know.
No, it
Only
is
in
not there.
India.
It is there only in India, and even that too in India on the GST there may be frequent changes,
Yes,
Yes, sir.
frequently changes the
right?
rates, sir.
Right, there will be frequent corrections, changes, updates in the GST because this is country specific. According to India, whenever the government changes the rules and law, according to that, every company who is operating in India must change their tax system considering the changes that are brought in by Indian government. Now, these kind of changes is what you have to work. These kind of changes is what you need to talk about if you are showing any experience related to GST. Because the moment you talk about you have experience on GST, you worked for an Indian client for taxation, you must know about the current GST system. If there are any recent changes that you must know. Let's say there are some tax rate percentage changes earlier on particular product or on a particular service the tax was 18% and recently, let's say 2 3 months ago, it was changed from 18% to 12%. If it was changed from 18% to 12%, what you will have to do, you will have to tell that you had support tickets or you had to work on these kind of changes on the taxation system, changing the tax rate from 18% to 12%. They might ask you, how did you change the tax percentage? If there are any changes in the tax reporting, how did you change this tax reporting? Here is where you need to talk about different points related to SAP notes, because this is a country specific thing. Anything which is country specific, SAP will be releasing notes for it. SAP will be releasing notes for it because so far it is a different treatment. Going forward, there is a change in the legal requirement. To meet these legal requirements, SAP will be releasing some notes. So you have to talk about this SAP note. SAP has released some notes, and then according to this SAP note, we have made the necessary corrections in the report or the necessary configuration changes for India taxation node. If you're talking about these points, the other person feels, yes, you are aware of something in GST or you are aware of something in taxation. If not, you are straight away talking only about configuration, only about accounting entries. The other person easily come to know that you have no experience on taxation. It's all the training experience. You have no practical understanding or knowledge. These points you need to keep in your mind because this is where majorly people will get caught. This is where people will create negative impression at the interviewer level. Once I say that I have experience on GST, I must know about how GST is configured. What is GST? In GST, you have how many levels? 3 or 4 levels?
I think 4 levels.
You have state GST, you have what other GSTs?
3 levels only. IGST,
Interest,
CGST, HGST,
So
UTGST.
IGST is
UTGST
your,
also.
UT.
yeah, Territory GST, integrated GST, state GST, central GST, correct? CGST,
Some,
IGST,
yes, sir.
SGST, and then UTGST. Now they might
Some,
ask you how. Go ahead.
some states cess also there. One.
Right. So these points at high level you have to know at least what is what. You don't have to know in depth because nobody will go to that depth. Everybody will check whether you have the basic understanding of this GST or not. For that, you need to talk in a different way. You should start your explanation in a different way. You should put down the points in a different way so that the other person feels comfortable, convenient with your explanation. When you talk about these things, you have to talk about in SAP, taxation is a common configuration for every country. For every country, based on that country specific requirement, SAP will have a different node. When I say SAP will have a different node, let me log into SAP now. They'll put these kind of questions to check whether you really worked on taxation or not. Let me show you this taxation config. I go to SPRO, financial accounting, global settings. If I go to global settings, I have something called taxes on sales and purchases, correct? You have tax on sales and purchase, you have withholding tax. When we talk about tax on sales and purchase, is this direct or indirect tax configuration?
Direct.
Indirect tax, sir.
Indirect
Tax on
tax.
Okay.
sales and purchases is your indirect tax configuration. Withholding tax is your direct tax configuration. If you go to tax on sales and purchases, you have three segments in this. If you go to tax on sales and purchase, you have three segments. One is your basic settings. If I open basic settings, in the basic settings, you have certain direct configurations, and below this, you have different country names, correct? You find
Yes,
different
sir.
country
Yes, sir.
things here. Now you can
Yes,
see
sir.
Argentina, Brazil, Czech Republic, Hungary, India, Israel, Italy, Middle East and North America, Russia, Poland, all these kind of countries. Now for all these countries, the tax treatment is different. Wherever there is a different treatment of taxation according to that country's local law, for that SAP will provide a separate node for that particular country, which means if you are working for an Indian project, if you are working for an Indian client, along with the standard common configurations, in short, the general configuration for taxation. Where did I go? Global setting, basic settings. Apart from the standard configurations, you have to do configuration in that particular country node also. Let's say you are working for India. Apart from the standard settings, whatever you have here, these are common settings for all the countries. Apart from this, you need to do certain settings from India node. If you open the India node, you have something called activate country version, India for specific fiscal years, activate business transaction events. You have something called goods and service tax, in short GST. In short, GST. If you come down, you will find the configuration related to GST here. You have general settings. You have something called condition types, tax codes to company code assignment. You have HSN and SAC code. This plays a crucial role in your GST. You must know what is HSN code, what is SAC code, because in India tax is based on sales and purchases. Sales and purchases are basically sale of a product, sale of a service, correct? Purchase of a product, purchase of a service. Am I correct?
Right, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Now, how you are going to treat the GST or how you are going to calculate the taxation. Now your taxation, if it is based on sales and purchases, how you are going to treat or how you are going to differentiate that this is based on sale, this is based on purchases. Now according to India, India will classify, or the Indian tax system will classify all the products and all the services according to a category. Right, every product is categorized according to category based on your business process. If your client is dealing with, let's say, food and beverage, now you will have to take the products that you are dealing with according to HSN code, according to SAC code. Anything that is related to product which will have HSN code, anything which is related to a service that will have SAC code. Correct? Huh? HSN code is applicable for a physical product, SAC code is applicable for a service. In short, physical material, service material is what you call it. Now, when you're talking about these things, now your interviewer might try to put questions. If I'm creating a purchase order for a service material, how is GST determined? From where GST percentage is coming into picture if I create a service material? Now there they are not expecting you to tell the configuration, but at least they expect you to talk about these 2 points, HSN code, SAC code. If you're not talking about these 2 points, but you're explaining me everything, I am not convinced. Because I don't want your config, I don't want your T code, but I just want you to explain me the process as it happens in real environment. If you create a service purchase order, how your tax will come into picture? When you create a purchase order, you need to maintain 2 things, either a material or a service code. Correct? If you are creating a purchase order for material, system will determine which material you are using. This material will be tagged to a HSN code. Similarly, if you are creating any service, your service master will have a tag to the SAC code. At this level, at this code level, you are going to maintain the tax rate. Based on this, system will understand, okay, you are using X product. For X product, 12% is the GST. If you are able to tell these small connecting points, the other person will understand, okay, I am fine with you. But if these small connecting points we are unable to answer, the other person, no matter how much ever we tell, they will not be convinced. Now, preparing at this level, is it easier or tough?
That's easy.
Knowing these connecting points is easier. But normally what we will do, we will try to look at the configuration first. We will try to Google taxation GST interview questions with answers. That is where we commit the first mistake. As long as we are preparing in that way, you will always get surprised with the questions that you get in your interview. Your interviewer is not Googling what questions to ask for a FICO consultant on GST. They will simply ask basic points considering you are falling under below 5 years. This point you need to keep in your mind. If you are under below 5 years, whether it is an interview for a fresher with 1 year experience or for a candidate with 4 years of experience, I treat both the same. According to me, a fresher, according to me, a 1 year experience, 2 year experience, 3 year experience, 4 year experience, I treat the same. I put the same questions. I'm not going to change my questions considering you have 3 years of experience, considering you have 4 years of experience. Keep this point in your mind, irrespective of your level of experience, if you fall under below 5 or above 5. Accordingly, the level of interview is decided. Once you know that HSN code, SAC code is where you are going to define it, and if you open this, you have something called country and you have something called control code. This control code is nothing but either HSN code or SAC code. Now, if you're talking about HSN code, if you're talking about SAC code, normally who will give you these codes in the project?
Management.
Client will provide, sir. Client will be.
Clients will provide us.
Your client will provide the list of HSN codes, the list of SAC codes that they are dealing with. It's not that in India there is a list of some 20,000 codes. You are not going to create 20,000 codes. Let's say you may be creating 300, 400 codes of the products that your client is dealing with. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Whatever the products that you're dealing with, only those products you will be creating. Tomorrow, if you add a new product, tomorrow, if you add a new service, you are going to create this as a new configuration. You will get a request, kindly create this HSN code or this service material or physical material. Then you are going to come to this config. You will maintain this. Accordingly, you will determine or you will maintain the tax rates or tax condition mapping. This is one point that you need to remember if you are working on GST. Next one, how your GL accounts are assigned. Next one, how your GL accounts are assigned and how the connection is enabled between your GST to the different material master. Now, when it comes to taxation, especially when it comes to your GST taxation, tax on product, tax on service, in short, sales tax, purchase tax. Whenever you're talking about the sales tax, along with you as a FICO consultant, consultant is also involved in the GST configuration, correct? Am I correct? Along with
Yes,
you,
sir.
consultant is also involved in the GST configuration. Similarly, along with you, SD consultant is also involved in the GST configuration or in the GST work. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
And you should keep these points in your mind that normally what will happen when somebody is asking you to explain about GST, we talk in such a way that everything is performed by you. You are the only one person who handle the GST, but that will never happen in any project. For any GST, in short, for any taxation, you will have a FICO consultant, you will have a SD consultant, you will have a consultant involved in it. Tax determination for the purchase order sales is handled by SD and consultant separately. Tax related to finance, direct invoices that you are booking, direct expenses that you are booking, that is where you will be involved. And apart from this, you will be taking care of your tax reports, you will be taking care of tax percentages, tax codes. Now you have to clearly distinguish what you have done on your taxation. And your interviewer might ask you what was the role of SD consultant in your tax project or in the taxation, what was the role of consultant in the taxation, or they might ask, is it you that who did alone, or did you work alone in the taxation, or there were any team members apart from you? Which means they are asking you to tell along with you there was an FI SD consultant, there was an consultant. If you are not talking these points, again it reveals that you have no experience or you are not aware what exactly happens in a project. What you do exactly, tell me point to point, nobody wants it, but at least give me an idea that whatever you're talking is realistic. Now these points talking is very simple, very easy in your interview, provided you know these points well in advance, you prepare in the similar way. You will not be surprised to the questions that you get from your interviewer if you prepare in this manner. Because they are going to think from this point of view, they are going to ask you questions from this point of view. If your preparation is also in line with their thinking, their thought process, you will not feel that, okay, he is asking something which is irrelevant. All the questions are relevant to find out the right candidate. When I say to find out the right candidate, I mean the person who knows better. Yes, I know that everybody knows about taxation, but I wanted to find somebody who knows better. Better not in terms of configuration, better in terms of knowledge. Clear? Now, once you know this, then they might ask you to talk about configuration. What configuration do you maintain for taxation? If they are asking you about talk about configuration, what configuration are you going to talk about? Sometimes they might simply ask, can you tell me the configuration path for taxation? You get these kind of questions also. They might simply ask you, can you tell me what is the path to do the tax configuration? Now, sometimes for these kind of questions, people will go blank. They will tell me total configuration, create a tax procedure, condition type, tax code and all. But what is the path for it? Where do you configure all this? People, they might say correctly, they might not say correctly. Now, you are telling me the total configuration, but you do not know where is this config. Where is the path for this? Correct? If somebody is asking you the config path for this, you need to be very clear. And they might ask, why do you have the different country names in the tax configuration path? Like I might ask you a question that, why do you have different countries on your tax configuration part? For what purpose? What is the purpose of those many countries in the IMG configuration path? Then you must have to tell that in these specific countries, the way the taxation treated is different. Now, any country that you are working apart from the countries list that is mentioned here, that will have the global tax setting or standard tax configuration. Clear? If you are working for a country which is not listed in this, any country which is not listed in this, if you are working for those countries, that will have the standard tax configuration, which means the configs that you have here will be sufficient to meet the tax requirement. Okay, if you're talking about countries that are listed here, you need to first have a look at your resume, have a look at the clients that you're projecting, look at from which country your client belongs to. If it is related to, let's say, you're talking about Brazil project, you must know there is a different treatment of tax in Brazil. You must know about Brazil taxation, at least basics. Similarly, if you're talking about Indian project, you must know about GST, at least basics. Similarly, if you're talking about any MENA, this is a region. This is basically ME represent Middle East, NA represent North America. Any Middle East country, any North American country will have a different treatment. Similarly, these are the specific countries. Next point. Now, point number 1 clear. You need to look at your resume, have a look for which countries you are talking about taxation. If you are going to say that you worked on taxation, your client belongs to which countries? Is it a standard taxation or any specific taxation? If you are keeping any country which is not apart from this, you don't have to have any experience on it, but at least for India, you must have basic knowledge about GST. Not work experience, basic knowledge about GST is mandatory. Just to give the confidence to the interviewer that you can handle if they hire you, if they put you in Indian project. Because any company who is working in India, they must handle GST. Yes, no? Any
Yes, sir.
company who is working in
Yes,
India, they must handle GST. And if I am taking an interview for my company, and if I am an Indian operated company, or if I have projects for Indian clients, I must look for a candidate who knows GST, who worked on GST, or at least who can handle GST. I don't want your GST experience, but at least I want that kind of a confidence from you that yes, you can handle, you can work on GST. Most of the people, what they tell, they simply cut down the question stating, I don't have any experience on GST. But you have to continue from there, but you are aware of GST, how configuration happens, what accounting entries will come into picture, all these kind of basic points you talk. That the other person feels, yes, you have the better understanding, you can handle if I take you in my project. But you're not giving me that chance, you're not telling me in that confident way that you can work, you can handle. But all I want from you, all I expect from you is this kind of comfortness, confidence that you are giving to me. If you take me, I can handle. But what we normally do, we tell that no, I have no experience, I have not worked on it. In my project, in my client, they were not using this. So it means that whatever your client is using, only that you are aware. Apart from that, you know nothing. So that way the other person receives your answer. So they will take you in a negative way. They will take you in a negative way. They say that candidate is not willing to learn. Candidate is not keen for learning. They should feel that you are looking for exploring new things. You are looking for new opportunities. You are looking for new challenges. Tell them that you have not worked on GST. You are looking forward to work on GST. You want to gain knowledge, experience practically on GST project. Tell them in such a way that they get impressed. Is my voice breaking?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Maybe due to internet issues, I'm not sure. But let me know if everybody is facing the same problem.
Sir, perfect.
Voice is okay, sir.
Okay. Now you are able to understand, right, what we are talking about and what points you need to consider before you prepare for these kind of topics from now on, whatever we are going to discuss. It's not about config, it's about something different. Now, once you know the config path for taxation, you should determine that there are different countries in which tax is treated differently, and most of the countries it is standard configuration for taxation. Once you figure out based on your resume, this is dependent on your resume, it is not something that you can commonly prepare. It depends on your resume. You need to look at what projects you are showing on your resume. If you have Indian project, no other go, you must prepare on taxation, especially the GST part. You should know the basics to talk about. Next one, you should know the configuration steps. You should know the configuration steps. Next one, reports. What configuration you will do in GST or in taxation. What kind of reports you will extract for GST or for taxation. Next one is your accounting entries in taxation. There will be no difference in the accounting entries when it comes to GST or when it comes to taxation. Now, if you talk about accounting entries first, let's focus on accounting entries because this is one of the key area that you will be questioned. If somebody is asking you about GST, if somebody is asking you about taxation, they will not leave you without asking accounting entries or journal entries. This is mandatory. All the topics from now on, whatever we are going to discuss, every topic has a key importance of your accounting entries, how these entries are coming, how you are mapping this accounting entries. Let's say if you talk about sales tax and if you talk about purchase tax. Now, when we talk about accounting entries, you must know how accounting entry is determined or is posted with the sales tax, similarly for purchase tax. Just give me a minute. Okay. How sales tax is posted and how purchase tax is posted. Before you come to sales tax, before you come to purchase tax, you need to first remember how sales is posted, how purchase is posted without a tax. If you know that, it's very easy to add taxation into it. Practically, you don't have to prepare for accounting entry for taxation if you know sales accounting entry, if you know purchase accounting entry. For example, start taking simple examples. Start taking simple examples. Let's say I'll take this side. I'll write an example. Sold, let's say, a mobile phone, or sold Apple iPhone 14 for 75,000. I'll say sold Apple iPhone 14 for 75,000. Now, when you're selling here, on the other side, you are going to purchase it. Correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll put purchased an Apple iPhone 14 for 75,000. Is this the scenario remains the same on both the sides or it will change? One side you are purchasing, on the other side you are selling.
Oh, I think this is changed.
Scenario, if I am purchasing for 75,000, you must have sold me for 75,000 only,
Right, sir.
right? Will there be any change or there will be no change?
Uh, I think
No change.
no
There will be
change.
no change. If I am purchasing for 75,000, the other person must have sold for 75,000 only, right? Because same transaction will have two effects. One side this becomes purchase, the other side same transaction is referenced as a sale, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, if I am writing this accounting entry from sales point of view, from the sales point of view, who will be there, customer or vendor?
Customer.
From sales point of view, you will have customer. From the purchase point of view, who will be there?
Vendor.
Vendor. Whenever you talk about vendor, keep another point in your mind, supplier. Okay, and then the supplier you also keep as seller and customer is buyer, correct? Is this right? Because the reason why you need to remember these points, tomorrow in your interviewer might put questions using these terminologies. How it will create, how it will impact for your seller side, or how it will create impact on your supplier side. And the moment you hear these kind of terminologies, supplier, seller, buyer, customer, you should not get confused. Normally what will happen, the moment we start using these terminologies, the other person will get confused. Now you should not get into such kind of a confusion. Instead, start using any of these terms. If you are using seller here, use buyer here. If you are using a customer here, use either vendor or supplier. Normally, who is going to take the product, receive the product, customer or vendor?
Customer.
Customer.
Customer, sir.
Customer will receive the product. Now, who will have to pay the tax? The person who is purchasing or the person who is selling? Who will have to pay the tax?
Purchasing.
Who's purchasing?
The person who is purchasing the tax will have to pay the tax. Now, the person who is purchasing will come in the sales side or will come on the purchase side?
Sales side, sir.
Sales side.
The person who is purchasing, is a customer, correct? Is that right? The person who is purchasing is called as a customer.
Yes, sir.
Now, person who is purchasing, a customer, will come at the time of sales. Now, at the time of sales, since you are selling the product, you are going to pay the tax or you are going to receive the tax.
Receive.
Receive the tax.
From the sales point of view, you are going to receive the tax. Here, let me put receive tax amount, and on the other side for the purchase tax. For the purchase, your
Given tax.
vendor or a seller. Now here at the time of purchase, you are going to receive the tax or you are going to pay the tax.
Pay the tax.
Given tax.
You are going to pay tax amount here. Right? Now I'll put this another color. Next one, I will write accounting entry without tax. Here also same thing, accounting entry without tax. If there is no tax, what will be the accounting entry for this?
Bank incoming account debit to Apple account.
To whom you are selling?
Customer.
Customer. So customer account must be used here. Any sale that you talk, you must debit to the, any sale that you are talking about, you must include the customer name. Any purchase that you are making, you must include vendor name. Without customer name, sales are not allowed. Without vendor name, purchases are not allowed. Correct? Without customer posting, without customer name, you are not supposed to record the sale. Similarly, without the supplier, without the vendor name, you are not supposed to record purchases. This is the first rule that you need to remember when it comes to sales purchase accounting entries. Now, here you don't have any name of the customer. Wherever you have no name of the customer, you put customer only. Okay, let's say I'll put sold to Mr. Raju. I'll say sold an Apple iPhone 14 for 75,000 to Mr. Raju. I'll say purchased from, let's say, Reliance Digital. Correct? Just clear? Now for this, what will be the accounting entry that you are going to write?
Raju to cash account.
Normal your accounting entry is customer account debit, sales account credit. So customer, you have a name. I am going to write Raju account debit,
Apple account. Apple.
sales account credit. Is this what I am going to write, or anywhere I need to mention the product? Is this accounting entry correct?
Yes.
No, sir.
Is this accounting entry correct?
Correct, sir.
Yes, sir.
What will happen to your Apple iPhone? Where do you show this Apple iPhone?
It's an inventory.
So should I debit Raju, or should I debit Apple iPhone, or should I credit sales, or I should credit Apple iPhone, or the entry will
Credit
be
Apple.
Raju to sales only?
Sales nothing but
Entry
Apple.
with Raju to sale only.
It will be Raju to sales only. Now this is how you will be trapped in your interviews. They will put, what will happen to Apple iPhone that you are selling? Where do you account it? Then if you are confused, if you are talking about, no, I will debit iPhone account. Are you sure you debit iPhone account? No, we will debit iPhone account credit because you are selling it. Are you sure you are going to credit iPhone? Now, the moment you start getting these kind of questions, do we normally get confused or not?
Yes, sir.
Because for one moment, you will go blank and then you will start, okay, he is asking means whatever I'm telling is wrong. So he is helping me to put right answer. So I will tell, no, it's not Raju to sales. It will be Apple iPhone to sales. Then you might get another question. Are you sure? No, sorry, we are selling the iPhone. So iPhone will be credit. Now this is quite common with most of the people in the interview. I have personally created confusion to a lot of people. Majority of the people got confused for these kind of questions. Which means you can easily figure out whether somebody really knows the subject or somebody by hearted the subject. If you really know the subject, even if I try to create confusion, you will stick to your answer because you are confident on what you're talking. Correct? If I am telling, are you sure? Then you are changing your answer. Then I know that your whatever you know is something that you studied overnight or last 1 week, Google or whatever. I am very clear with my perception that you do not know the subject properly. Because if you are not sure, accept it, nothing wrong in it. Tell that this is what I know, I'm not clear with this accounting entry, I'm getting confused. You can accept it, nothing wrong in it. The other person will only tell you, no, this will be debit, this will be credit, if you are honestly accepting that you do not know. But if you try to act smart, no, I got confused, I worked on this 1 year ago, it's been a long time, I forgot all this now. When I look at it, I will recollect everything. People will talk like this also. Now, whoever talks in this way that they change that we worked long back, it's been a while since I worked on GST project or taxation, then I understand that you have no experience on it, but you're trying to cover, you're trying to manage with something which is irrelevant, which is something that is not convincing enough to the other person. Now, these points are quite common with most of the people who attend interview for SAP FICO. Point number one, these kind of answers you are not supposed to give. If you are not sure, accept that you do not know it. But whatever you know, tell. But if the other person is asking you, is trying to create confusion, you don't get confused, don't change your answers. If you are changing your answer for my confusions, which means I am very clear that you do not have the confidence. Whether it is right or it is wrong, stick to what you are telling. Accept that this is what you are understanding about this entry. If something is different that you are not aware of, at the end you can ask for this question, can I know the accounting entry for this entry that you have asked? The person who put you the question will give you the answer at the end, because at the end everybody will ask you, do you have anything to ask for me, you have any questions, correct? At the end of every interview everybody will put this question to you, yes, no, those who attended interviews.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You
sir.
can ask all the questions that you felt that it was tricky. You can put that question to the same person. Can I know what will be the answer for this, or how this is treated for this question? They will tell you. They will definitely tell you. Even if they don't tell the complete answer, but they'll tell you, they'll give you a heads up what is what. But nobody will tell you go and ask your trainer, you Google it. Nobody will tell that. They have to answer if you put this question to the interviewer. But all these points will matter a lot in your interview. Okay, is this accounting entry correct first? Is this right accounting entry?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This is the correct accounting entry. The same accounting entry, if you have to write from the purchasing point of view, how it will be?
Purchase account debit to Reliance Digital.
Purchase account debit, Reliance, digital account credit. Is this accounting entry correct? Are you sure we use purchase account in real time? Anybody saw any GL account by name purchase?
No, inventory account.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. If you tell these kind of things, immediately you will get a cross question if your interviewer knows about the subject. You will not use purchase account. You will use inventory account. You will use inventory account. Now, if you are using inventory account, what is this for you?
Asset.
If you are using inventory, what is this for you?
Current asset.
This is current asset. In short, this is a stock item, correct? If you
Yes.
are writing this a debit as inventory, this is called as a stock item. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
When you're selling, by default, this is a stock item because you sell only your stock. You don't sell your assets to the customers. Agree? That's a very rare incident where you are selling your asset to a customer. That is treated from the asset module. That's a different story. Normally, whenever you talk about any sale entry, you are talking about material sale or a stock item sale, either service or a physical material. On the other side, when you're writing an entry from the purchase point of view, you need to pay attention towards certain elements. You are debiting. Why you are debiting this? Are you purchasing this iPhone for selling to your customer or for your internal usage? What is the purpose of your purchase?
Selling.
Selling
Resale.
purpose.
If your intention is to resell, then you are debiting to the inventory account, which is correct. Let's say your intention is to give this iPhone to your, let's say you're one of the employee, let's say your CEO, your CFO, or your finance manager newly joined, or your finance director, somebody joined at the top level. Normally for certain level of employees, company will provide cell phone also.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Let's say it is that situation wherein you purchased this. In that situation, will this be debit to one inventory account?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Expense.
No, sir.
No,
Expenses.
Now,
it
at
will
that
be expenditure.
situation, it will not be an
Or
expenditure. At that situation, it will be
fixed assets.
asset account. At that time, you are going to capitalize the Apple iPhone. You are going to create an asset master for Apple iPhone. You will be debiting Apple iPhone 14 debit. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this level also, people will try to put you in confused state. At this level also, people will try to put you in confused state. And if you are able to answer these kind of questions, if you prepare at this level, you will not find it difficult. You will be able to answer any kind of a tricky questions that you get in your interview. But because these kind of a questions that you don't normally prepare, correct? Huh? We don't even think this way. We straight away think purchase account debit, vendor account credit. So you don't even think what question I am asking. You will simply give me the answer purchase debit, vendor credit. But if you get a cross question, are you sure you used purchase account in your project? Yes. Are you sure you assigned purchase account anywhere? Yes. Where did you assign purchase account? You will tell I assigned purchase account in OBYC. Do you assign purchase account in OBYC?
No, sir.
You don't assign purchase account in OBYC, but believe me, people will still tell these kind of answers. Because you are the one who is telling me purchase account debit, vendor account credit. I am going to ask from where purchase account is coming. You know that this is a vendor. So for vendor FIMM integration happens at OBYC. I will straight away tell in OBYC we will maintain purchase account. First of all, there is no purchase account used at all in any project. And you are telling me that purchase account is debited, purchase account is coming from OBYC. Now, do I understand what kind of knowledge you have or not? Do I have a clear picture in my mind or not with this one answer?
Yes, sir.
You're able to get what I'm talking to, right? If you answer these kind of one or two questions in this way, like purchase account is debit, purchase account is coming from OBYC, then no matter whatever you answer for the remaining questions, my impression is fixed on my mind. I am not going to select you, no matter what, because of one wrong answer, because of one simple mistake. Because these are the mistakes that are not supposed to happen, especially in your interview. Because this is where people will try to filter the right candidates. This is where people will try to pick whether you are aware of the subject or not. Now, preparing, knowing these kind of points, is it difficult? Now, if I talk about purchase account, it is not related to my SAP experience. It is simply related to my basic understanding. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir.
My basic understanding itself is wrong. Then how can I believe that I know or you know something in SAP FICO, that you really worked, that you really have proper knowledge? Now this is where majoritarily people will get rejected for these kind of tricky questions. That is why everybody will realize that I answered all the questions properly, but still I was not selected. Still I got rejected because you don't even realize that these kind of questions have been asked and you told answers in this way, which is incorrect. Because all the time we think from SAP config, T code, report, all these kind of things, we will never go beyond that. Your interview is always beyond config, T codes. What we are thinking from the interview point of view is different. What an interviewer is thinking about you from the interview point is different. These two are not in sync. That is why whatever they ask, you find it something different. They are asking all out of syllabus questions. But the other side also, it is the same. They don't know the basic points that are used in a project. You're getting me, right? The way
Yes.
what I want you to know, you're not aware of Whatever you are expecting me to answer, ask the questions. Such kind of a questions I am not asking. I am not meeting your expectations as an interviewer. You are not meeting my expectations as a candidate. So we both are not aligned. What I want is different. What you are expecting is different. So that is why majoritarily we do not get selected. It is as simple as that. Okay, if this is the accounting entry, let's assume that we are inventorizing this. Let us assume that we are inventorizing this, or either I'll put inventory or Apple iPhone 14. Clear? These are two possibilities depending upon the situation. If you are capitalizing the asset, if you are going to use it for your official purpose, you will be capitalizing that as an asset. In that case, you will be debiting Apple iPhone 14 as a fixed asset. Otherwise, if you are going to sell this to the customer, you purchased it, then you are going to inventorize this. If you want to inventorize this, you will have to debit your inventory account or stock material account. Now, here the amount will be, how much it will be? 75,000. Correct? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Is this amount
Yes,
correct?
sir.
75,000. Now, let me put here also 75,000 on the debit, 75,000 on the credit. Now, debit credit matching, it is 0. Now, if let me do a sum for the accounting entry. This is 0. If I put this, this is 0. Similarly, debit credit, if I put, this is 0. Any doubt on this accounting entry? Sales accounting entry, purchase accounting entry, is it clear? Is this accounting entry alone? Is this accounting entry alone? Is it clear? Why we debited this, why we credited this?
Yes, sir.
Now let me put
Sir,
this in the other way.
sir, in the in the selling side, if the interviewer asks us that where do we put the Apple mobile, then what should I do?
That will go to your logistics side. That I am going to explain in the next one. I'll talk about detailed accounting entry once we write with the taxation.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now in this one, let's put let's say I'll put at currently I'm not talking about GST, I'm talking only about the tax. In sales, we will talk only as a sales tax. In purchase, we will talk only as purchase tax. At the rate, let's say 10% sales tax. And here I'll put at the rate 10% purchase tax. Correct? Is this correct? Is this clear? You sold a product to Mr. Raju for 75,000 at the rate 10% sales tax. Now, you know the value of your sale. How much is the value of a sale?
75,000.
25,000.
You have to write value of sale 75,000. Next one, tax rate. What is the tax rate?
7,500%.
Tax rate.
10%. 10%.
10% is the tax rate. If you know these 2 points, is it sufficient or it is not sufficient?
Sufficient, sir.
You have to
It
know
is
it is. You have to know the state, sir.
no, that we are not talking about the GST point. We are only talking about in general sales tax, straight away sales tax. You need to know another point, or these 2 points are sufficient?
Sir, customer name.
You already have that,
Yes, I
Mr.
will.
Raju.
Yes, sir.
Any other thing you need to know, or this is sufficient?
Sufficient, sir.
Not sufficient. If I give you the same question in your interview, if I tell that, let's say you sold Apple iPhone 14 for 75,000 to Mr. Raju, which is taxable at 10%. What will be the accounting entry? I'll put the same question to you in your interview. What will you answer? I want you to tell me the accounting entry, including the amount that is going to be debited, that is going to be credited. Now, in your interview, always remember, you will always have to take the example with round figure numbers. Even if your interviewer is giving you the question, they will also give you round figure numbers. Let's say you sold an iPhone for 75,000, or I may say that you sold for 1 lakh, or you sold for 50,000. Some easy numbers they will give you, because you have to calculate and then tell me the number including tax. So I will not be giving you some tricky number, 75,249 rupees, 5% tax. Nobody will give you that. Everybody will give you round figures. They just want to know whether you are capable enough to calculate the taxes, you are able to understand how taxes are determined or not. Nobody is concerned, nobody is focused on your configuration. Be very, very clear. Nobody is focused at that config level. First of all, I want to make sure that you are aware of how taxes are calculated, how accounting is done for taxation. If I am convinced that you are aware of this, I am okay with you. In fact, everybody will be okay with you. But you know the config, but you don't know how this entry is posted. Then what is your config going to help me in my project? I want you to talk to my client. I want you to analyze the project related issues on the taxation. That is possible only if you are able to map the accounting entries, only if you are able to understand the tax calculations. Where to debit, where to credit, why debit, why credit. Simple example, if I take you in my project and I want you to work on taxation for a particular client. Now, what do I need from you? I want you to talk to the client and then understand their taxation, or I want you to straight away log into SAP and then do the config based on your material config steps. What do I want?
To understand the requirement from them.
Right? I want you to talk to the client. I want you to talk to the users, understand how they are posting the taxation, what scenarios they have, which accounts they are using. All these kind of things I want you to work on. Now, this is the practical expectation from you if I want you to work on taxation on any of my project. Yes, no? This is the practical expectation that I have from you. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir.
When I know that this is what I want you to do when you join my project, or when I take you into my organization, I want to ensure whether you are capable enough to handle these kind of situations or not. Those things I will be able to understand only when I put these kind of questions. If you are able to answer these kind of questions, if you are able to explain, if you are at least able to try that, you know some basic about this, you can learn, you have that interest to work on these areas, I will be okay with you. But I'm not okay with you if you're not talking about any of these points, but you're straight away getting into the config. Then I'll also come to your way, on what basis you will create this, from where you will get this requirement, who will give you this. Have you configured taxation on your previous project? If you say yes, how did you get the requirement? How did you, from, on what basis you gathered, on what basis you created? Did you create any tax codes? You say yes. On what basis you created a tax codes? Can you tell me what tax codes you have created? What is the tax code? 2-digit identification. What is the description of it? In which T code you created? How did you test it? What entry you posted to test the tax code? If I am asking you these kind of questions, will you be comfortable or you will be blank? If I put these kind of questions, will you be feeling comfortable or you will start getting nervousness? Tell me the tax code that you created, what description you have given, how did you test that this tax code is working fine or not. Do you have the immediate spontaneous answers for these kind of questions? Yes, no?
Not at all, sir.
But this is how you will be questioned. If I am taking your interview, this is what I am going to ask. And you have to always prepare for your interview at this level. And if you are preparing for interview at this level, if you are looking at a topic at this level, let the other person ask at any level, you will feel comfortable, you will feel this is very easy. Because at this level, majoritarily for your level of experience, nobody will go, but I want you to prepare at this level so that you don't find it difficult when you sit on the interview seat. I want you to feel that this is very simple. They are asking me whatever I know. They are asking me the way that I prepared. I prepared at extreme level, but they are asking very simple basic questions. So your perception when you attend your interview should be like this. For that, no other go, you have to put extra efforts right from the beginning in a different way. Your approach for your interview preparation should be different. Now, let's say if I give you this question in your interview, I want you to tell me the accounting entry. Now, as I said, I'll be talking about all the topics from now on in a different way. I'll be creating different kind of confusions. Make sure you get used to these kind of confusions because this is how you will be trapped in your interview. Clear? Make sure you catch what we are talking about, you understand, you are not getting confused, you are able to think in a different way, you are able to answer, you are able to convince the other person. For that, no other go, you have to prepare at this level. Now, is this sufficient or not sufficient to tell the accounting entry, or you should put another question? You must put another question to your interviewer if this is what you have been asked, or you have to give two accounting entries. If this is the question, option number 1, ask question to your interviewer. Option number 2, give two accounting entries. Any clue why I said two accounting entries? Any clue why I am talking about two accounting entries? Because your tax always contains two level of calculations. One is tax calculation. You have something called inclusive or exclusive. Anybody heard this?
Yes, sir.
If it is inclusive, your accounting entry is different. If it is exclusive, your accounting entry is different. Am I correct? If this 10% is inclusive tax, the accounting entry is different. If this 10% is exclusive tax, your accounting entry is different. When you are talking about accounting entry, you will call it as accounting entry only when you talk debit credit along with the amount. Correct? Only when you talk debit credit along with the amount, that is called as accounting entry. From now on, you have to elaborate points. If I have to tell, if you are asking your interviewer, you need to ask whether this 10% is inclusive tax or exclusive tax. You need to ask what question? If this 10% is inclusive tax or exclusive tax. Option number 1, you need to ask this point to your interviewer. Option number 2, you have to tell two accounting entries considering in case if this 10% is inclusive tax, this is what the accounting entry. If this 10% is exclusive tax, this is what the accounting entry. If you tell these points, if you talk in this way, the person who is taking your interview will never get any doubt on you. He's not going to ask any more questions on taxation. He will skip taxation. He'll go to next topic. Because your answer has cleared his mind that what level of knowledge you have, what level of understanding you have on the subject. They'll simply leave that topic. They'll go to the next topic. They'll say that I'm good with this candidate. This is what practically happens if you talk right things in your interview. Let's say if tax is inclusive, what will be the accounting entry? Let us not write the amount. Whatever the accounting entry you write for this, it will be the same. Whatever the accounting entry you have written, this will be the same. Right? For sales, we have written customer account debit, sales account credit. Raju account debit, sales account credit. Now, who is going to pay the tax? We have written
Raju.
tax will be paid by customer. Now, this one you are talking about tax is inclusive. What is the value of your product that you are selling?
75,000.
What is the value of product? 75,000. Now, I need to write 75,000. I need to write 75,000 because that is the value of product. What is your value of sale?
75,000 by
What is
110 into
75,000.
100.
Let's say I will put 75,000 here. Let's assume that this is 75,000 that you are selling. Now your customer will pay 75,000 including VAT or 75,000 excluding VAT. In short, excluding the tax.
Including tax.
If it is including tax, this is 75,000 is the actual product value, or this is 75,000 including tax.
Including tax.
Including tax.
This is including tax. Now your customer will always pay product value plus tax value, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your customer is always going to pay 75,000, which includes the tax. In short, your customer will always pay product value plus tax value. The 75,000 product value plus tax value or product value alone?
Product plus tax.
Both value plus tax value.
This is product value plus tax value because this is inclusive tax. So your customer will pay you 75,000. Correct? Customer will pay you 75,000. Now always remember, whatever the amount that your customer is paying is product plus tax. Correct? What is this? Product plus tax. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Equals to 110 percentage.
Right. Now what is your tax percentage?
10%.
10%. Now you need to understand few points here. Product is always 100% value, correct? And then you need to take tax. In this case, what is the tax percentage?
10%.
10%.
10%. Now whatever you have received from your customer, is this 10% value or 110% value?
110% value.
This is your 110% value. Now your sales is always what?
100%.
Product value. Put product plus tax value, and then you have something which is missing, tax value. So your tax value will be additional line item. Your customer will have the combination of product plus tax. On the other side, which is your offsetting, you need to have product separately, you need to have tax separately. Product value is always 100%. If 75,000 is 110%, what will be the 100% value? You need to figure out. If product value, if 110% is 75, what will be the 10% value? You need to find out. Now, when you post the accounting entry also, you need to look at the invoice, because not everybody will give you inclusive tax, not everybody will give you exclusive tax. It depends on The customer, it depends on the vendor, correct? Some may sell including tax, some may sell excluding tax. Is that right? It is not in your control. It depends. Somebody will tell all the rates including the tax. Somebody will tell taxes extra.
Yes, sir.
Alright, it depends. Now, in this case, what will be the sale value? How much you have to credit to the sales account? 75,000, or what calculation you need to put?
75,000 by 110 into 100.
So you need to put 75,000 multiplied by
10%. Sorry, 100%.
Multiplied by 100 divided by 110.
110. You got 68, this amount you got. If I put this much, this is what I am getting here. Next one, tax value, how you will get? Same thing, 75,000 divided multiplied by 110 or 10.
10, sir.
What is your tax rate? 10. You take 10
10,
divided by this
10
is
by 10.
75,000 is 110. You put this, copy this and put this here, value, and I'll take this into accounting format, 2 decimal, and this will be sales tax account credit, correct? Is this right? And if I put this credit, and if I put this credit negative number, if I do a total, is this becoming 0? Is this entry clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, what happened to your sales tax account? Is it on the debit side or is it on the credit side?
Credit side, sir.
It is on
Credit
the
side.
credit. Remember, wherever you have sales, sales tax is also on the same side. If your sales is credit, sales tax will be credit. If you are debiting sales account, you will have to debit sales tax also. Sometimes we will be debiting sales account in case of returns, correct? In case of returns, in case of any credit memos, you will be debiting sales account. At that time, you need to reverse, you need to cancel the tax also. That time you will have sales tax also on the debit side. So you should not have any confusion on this level. You have to be very clear, especially when it comes to accounting entries. On these kind of areas, especially your accounting entries will help you a lot in your interviews. If you're talking about accounting entries clearly, you will have more weightage to get your interview cleared. Just because you're explaining the accounting entries properly, you are able to understand the taxation properly. This is in case if tax is inclusive. What if your tax is exclusive? If tax is exclusive, what will be the accounting entry? This accounting entry will remain common. For sales, this is the standard accounting entry, blind thing. This is blindly you have to remember the accounting entry. For sales, whether it is inclusive tax, whether it is exclusive tax, accounting entry there is no change. Customer account debit, sales account credit, sales tax account credit. The way you calculate the amount is different. In case of exclusive tax, if your product value is 75,000, you are going to write product value at customer account or at sales account.
Sale account.
You have to write at sale account, because in this situation you are talking about this is exclusive taxation. When it is exclusive taxation, whatever the amount you are talking about, this is 75,000 is excluding the tax. Correct? If you're talking about 75,000 sale, this is excluding the tax. If this is excluding the tax, I am going to talk about product value as a 75,000. Correct? I'll put 75,000 here. This is my product value. What about tax? If this is exclusive,
500.
this 10% is applied on what? Product value.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. 7,500.
So
7,500.
7,500, it will be 7,500. Now your customer will pay product
80 to 500.
plus tax value. Your customer is going to pay how much? 82,500, correct? Now if I put this in accounting and if I do a total, is this becoming 0? This is accounting entry clear. And now if you do both together, if you see both accounting entries together, are these clear?
Yes, sir.
First thing, you should not have any confusion in this accounting entry. This is the general standard accounting entry for sales tax. If you are talking about India, you are going to replace the sales tax with the GST. If you have two portions in GST, replace the sales tax with SGST and IGST, whatever GST it is. But the accounting entry for tax on sales will remain on the credit side. If you're talking about GST, replace the sales tax with the GST. Clear? If you're talking about any particular country, whatever the name that they have, if some country is talking about VAT, you put VAT account credit. If somebody is talking about sales tax, put sales tax account credit. But whatever the name that they have for the sales tax, put that name and then put debit or credit. Any question on this accounting entry along with this calculation? Clear, right? Any question? No questions?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, every company implement a tax different. How we know which country using which tax? Like our India using GST and other country using which tax? How we know?
All that is legal thing. You just need to Google it. You will get it. Let's say if you are talking about taxation in India, if you type taxation in India, you will get the official website talking about your tax calculation system, including the tax rates. Every country will have the official website representing their tax calculation system.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next thing, if you put the same point from the purchase point of view. For the purchase point of view, what will be the accounting entry we are going to write? If tax is inclusive, if tax is exclusive. What are we going to write here? In case of the purchase. Now look at only this. You purchased Apple iPhone. If it is inclusive tax, what will be the debit? What will be the credit?
Inventory account debit, tax account debit to vendor account. Okay,
You put either inventory or iPhone account debit, because you may treat this as product. You may also treat this as fixed asset, correct? And which account is debit? Purchase tax. Purchase tax is debit, and seller, your supplier, is Reliance Digital account credit. Now where do we place this? Product value will go to purchase account. Reliance Digital will be updated with what value? Product plus tax. Correct? This is your tax value. Are these correct?
Correct, sir.
No, sir. Sir, inventory should be with product value.
Yeah.
The debit items are involved, vice versa.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Is this correct? Now what is the product value in case of inclusive tax? If it is inclusive tax, the amount that you know, is it representing product value or vendor value? In case of inclusive tax.
Vendor value, sir.
If it is inclusive, this is your vendor. You paid 75,000 to vendor including the tax. If you have to segregate out of 75,000, how much you paid as a tax, what is your actual product value? You have to do a reverse calculation. How do you put reverse calculation? 75,000 multiplied by, for tax, if it is 10%,
Multiplied by 10 divided by 100.
10 divided by 1 ton. In case of product value, 75,000 multiplied by
100.
100 divided by
110.
1 ton. Literally, you will be questioned on these calculations. You will be literally asked these questions. They want you to explain this with accounting entry like this. Now I need to put credit, which is this. So I'll remove minus, I'll remove minus from this. Now is this accounting entry correct? Purchase account, in short inventory or fixed asset account debit. Purchase tax account debit. Vendor account, in short Reliance Digital account credit. Is this entry correct along with the accounting numbers?
Yes, sir.
In case if we take the same thing in the other way around, because whenever you talk about tax, you must talk about these two scenarios together. I'll cut this, I'll put this from here. If tax is exclusive, accounting entry will remain same. What will get changed? Your accounting numbers will get changed. Whatever you know, in the case of exclusive, is it product value or vendor value? In case of exclusive, 75,000 will be product value or supplier value, vendor value?
Product values.
It will be product value. So I'll put 75,000 here. I know that on 75,000 I need to pay 10% tax. 75,000 10% tax will be 7,500. To vendor I need to pay my product value plus tax value. This will be how much? 80 to 500. And if you do a total, it must become 0. Is this accounting entry clear along with the numbers? Any confusion in this accounting entry? You need to remove your confusions from this stage if you wanted to understand the taxation properly. Because whatever you do in taxation, at the end you will come and land at this stage. wherein you need to decide whether your tax is working fine or not. If we are not clear here, system may calculate a tax rightly or wrongly sometimes. You need to validate your accounting entries, especially in your integration testing. Now everybody know in every project you have something called unit testing, user acceptance testing, system integration testing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now in all these activities, as a FICO consultant, you have to validate the accounting entries. This is one of your responsibility as a FICO consultant. You must verify the accounting entries which are posted, and you need to confirm that yes, taxes are getting calculated properly. You will get these kind of emails to validate the accounting entry from your consultant, from your SD consultant. Your consultant will create a purchase order. He will post something with tax code, let's say 5% tax, 10% tax, whatever. He will send an email because tax configuration involves area also. Tax configuration involves SD area also. From the SD side, SD consultant will have to make sure taxes are properly captured on the sales. Side, consultant will also make sure on the purchasing the taxes are being calculated properly. Consultant will run one purchase cycle and he will give you the accounting entries, or simply he will tell you this is the purchase order, please validate the accounting and then confirm. SD side, SD consultant will create one cycle, he will give you this is the sales order, please confirm the accounting. Now as a FICO consultant, this becomes your responsibility to confirm over the email. Dear so and so consultant, dear so and so SD consultant, I have validated the accounting entries for purchase order number XYZ and all the accounting entries are correct. Similarly, dear SD consultant, I have validated the accounting entries for sales order XYZ, all the accounting entries are correct. You literally have to respond to your consultant, to your SD consultant like this over an email. Tomorrow, when you're performing something called UAT along with the user, along with the client, if they say that no taxes are coming wrong, then it will bounce back to you as a FICO consultant, because consultant will tell, no, I already checked with my FICO consultant, he said it's all correct. SD consultant will also do the same thing. No, I checked with FI consultant, he said it's all correct. Now as a FICO consultant, nobody knows on what basis we confirmed. Sometimes people will confirm accounting entries generated, there is one debit, there is one credit, there is tax, it is right. But your user is not going to test that way. He is literally going to take a calculator, he will take the amount and he will check whether the tax is posted rightly or wrongly. Correct? Am I correct, those who are working? Yes, no? Is this how your user is going to test? Is this how your client is going to check the taxation? Those who are working? This is how your user is going to test. This is how your user is going to verify. When you know this is how it is tested, you must prepare, you must practice in the same way. Your approach must be the same way, in similar how your user, your client is going to verify tomorrow when you're in a project. If you test like this, if you see it like this, tomorrow you will not be surprised when you're in a project. You will feel that whatever the way you understood, in the same way, in the similar approach, your client is also thinking. Now these points is what you have to talk in the similar way in your interview. When you talk these points in the similar way, you will find practically the difference in your interview. You will realize at that point of time how you will feel. You will realize on your interview when you talk these points in your interview at the same level, or to your client or to anybody you talk at this level, explain in this way. Now so far, did we talk about any configuration on taxation?
No, sir.
Even if you do the configuration, you have to come and verify this. If you're not verifying this, your tax configuration is of no use, because anything that you configure, you need to verify whether it is working right or wrong. Correct? That is where you have something called unit testing. That is where you have something called user acceptance testing. That is where you have something called system integration testing, regression testing, XYZ testings. Why these many testings you are doing? To ensure your accounting is properly posted. If you're talking from FICO point of view, you do different level of testing to ensure everything is fine. So when you know that you are going to test so many types and everywhere you are going to be involved as a FICO consultant, correct? Tomorrow, if I ask you a question that what was your role and what did you do in your unit testing for taxation? If I put a question, what did you do in the testing for taxation? How did you test? What was your role in UAT when it comes to taxation? You should have something to explain. You should have something to talk about. Agree? Correct? Right. So what we are going to talk if you get these kind of questions. What was your role in the testing? What did you do in your implementation project? How did you test? This is what you have to talk. This is what they expect from you. If you're talking these points, they'll be fine with you. If you're not talking these points, but you're talking something else, whatever you talk apart from this is irrelevant. Will represent that you have not worked. Clear, right? Accounting entry for purchase with tax, without tax. Accounting entry for sales with tax, without tax. Is it clear?
Sir, in the interview, shall we mention the sales tax or purchase tax or input tax or output tax? What should we mention, sir?
You can mention anything. You can either mention sales tax or purchase tax or input output tax. Anything is fine. But make sure you're not getting confused at that level. It's always better you talk about sales tax, purchase tax instead of input output, because majoritarily at that level, most of the people will get confused. Instead of sales, you may tell input tax. Instead of purchase, you may tell output tax. So if you feel you're comfortable, you're not getting confused, you can use input tax, output tax, or you can use sales purchase tax straight away. The intention is to check whether you know the accounting impact or not.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions on this? This is something that you need to prepare on your taxation as the first level of understanding. Later on configuration, that is very much simple, straightforward. Even after doing the configuration, you need to land at this page to verify whether your config is right or wrong. If you know where you need to check, from there if you start, everything will be in line. If you do not know what you need to check, whatever you do at the end, you will be confused what to check, whether it is right or wrong. You have 100 question marks in your mind. So always know what you are going to check, what will be your requirement, what you are going to achieve. Accordingly, you take your examples. Accordingly, you start your configuration. Then you will not find any difficulty. End of the day, you need to make sure you are able to talk confidently without getting any confusion. Clear? And in this, you have different scenarios. In the taxation, this is the basic entries. You have different scenarios according to which your entry may get a little changed. But these are the mandatory entries to be discussed. The other entries are fine even if you tell that you do not know. Even if you tell that you do not know the accounting entry for the remaining scenarios. Let's say you may have something called RCM, reverse charge mechanism. Anybody heard what is RCM? There's something called RCM, reverse charge mechanism. If you know what is RCM, you can talk. If you do not know, you can tell. You know what is RCM, but you do not remember the accounting entries properly. That is fine. But if you are unable to answer this, I am not okay with you. You are able to answer with this, I am impressed. I want to check you know other things also. That is just to check whether you really have very good knowledge. If you tell this, I know that you have good knowledge. The RCM and the other things, I am just going to check if you are aware or not. Not mandatory to know other things, but this is a must. No exception for these areas. The other accounting entries we will list out once we are clear with these entries. Once we pass these entries on the system, we will write other accounting entries and then we will test other scenarios also. Okay, first thing, prepare on this, and also make sure you prepare what is taxation, what is your direct tax, what is your indirect tax. These kind of basic points related to taxation. Theoretically, you try to read from different tax related things. It is better you read from official SAP websites, help.sap.com, or those who already worked on taxation can explain what is what at high level, so that we will have a clear understanding. You will get different opinions, different explanations. Accordingly, you can make out your own definition. Okay, clear, right, on this part? So I'll put same point here, value of purchase. All right, if no questions, let me stop this recording.